I think you gave me a little bit of a segue there in terms of stake and Trumpism. But one of the things that's difficult just as a citizen is to keep track of the plethora of events. You open the newspaper and there's something else. You go, oh my goodness, I never thought that would happen. And that whether it's an economic policy, whether it's a medical policy, whether it's how we're treating immigrants in our country, it is just over and over again every day. And so I'm interested in your advice in terms of the ways that interested, active citizens can be helpful in supporting driving that stake in a way that is meaningful right now while he's in power.
I will keep letting you go first, or I'll go first. Whatever you want to do.
We're going to work out here. I'll just answer the question. I'm just answering the question.
I also don't want him thinking that I'm avoiding the hard questions either.
Somewhere in there is a how many elected officials that screw in a light bulb joke.
Or
But, all right. Yeah, it does seem unrelenting. First of all, I'm not surprised by anything they're doing, because it's what they said they were going to do. It's in Project 2025. It's literally written down. I am astonished by the pace of it. The sheer speed of which it's happening has been shocking to me. So we don't have the luxury, though, to take passes. We just don't have the luxury to say, I'm not going to do this one, I'm not going to do this one, I'm going to focus. We have to fight on every front. And we have to put speed bumps, as many as we can, to slow these things down. Right? We just have to. And we are working so hard. And so are many of you and many of the people that I called out at the beginning to try to fight back and to protect our community. But this also will not be solved in Washington. You know, this fix that we're in is not going to be solved by me or Michael or any of the other elected officials. We have a critical role to play, a very important role to play, and really important jobs in fighting back. And not just fighting back, but also building something new, have an alternative vision, an idea for people to choose. But ultimately, this is going to be solved by all of us. Right? Washington, in the history of America, Washington has never driven change. It hasn't. It's set policy, it's responded to things, it's helped change the trajectory, but real change has always come from the country. Right? And if we're going to turn around the polarization, the partisanship, the entrenched vitriol that we see growing, the extremism, it's going to have to be by reinvigorating civic life in America. This is where I'm going to walk out for a minute. Alexis de Tocqueville wrote in Democracy in America, he compared different democracies. And he said, but in America it's different. And I'm paraphrasing here. He said, what is unique about America that doesn't exist anyplace else is the civic life. That politics in rallying around democracy doesn't revolve around electoral politics or Washington. It actually exists throughout the country in this fabric of community and civic organizations. That's how Americans organize themselves. And for so many years, that's how we did it. So it's now no surprise that as civic life has frayed, organization involvement has frayed, and we've self-segregated, that our politics have followed. Right, so my request for all of you is to engage in citizen oversight, because you all need to be our eyes and ears. We need to know what's happening in our community. When we're out in Washington, our teams are out in a lot of places, but we're not everywhere. And we need your eyes and ears to help us see what's happening and how to respond to it. That's one. Number two is, if you're not already, run out tonight and join an organization. A Rotary, a parent-teacher association, a local community board. Get involved and get to know people who you wouldn't otherwise have interaction with, and engage and let them know who we are as a community, what our values are. Like that, ultimately, is how we're going to solve it.
Let me just, I'm so happy this guy is your congressman. First of all, what they're doing is totally intentional, what he said. They're flooding the zone and flooding the zone and flooding the zone, which is what he did before he got elected and what he did the last time that he was elected. It's different this time because the last time he didn't think he was going to win. Like he was standing there in New York and, what? Hillary Clinton's not the next president? This time they had 4 years to prepare, and they did prepare. And that's what you're seeing, and that's what we're dealing with, and it is an avalanche every single day. And that's a reality that we're all going to have to find a way to deal with. I will say that I would suspect that all of us would be a little better off if we maybe turned the cable television off for an hour or two a day, rather than watching it, if we're watching it all day or for hours and hours and hours. And I am telling you, we would be better off, not doom scrolling on our phones all day long. We would. Listen, and by the way, if you think I don't understand what that looks like, know that my mother, Susie Bennet, who was born in 1938 in Warsaw, Poland, and the year before Hitler invaded, is still alive, and it spends most of every day, as far as I can tell, sending me that article, this article. Did you see what they said on MSNBC? It's like, I got it. And then I come to these meetings and we get it again. And Susie Bennet, you should stop watching all that stuff. But the other thing that happens, because this is the nature of doom scrolling and the nature of those programs, is that in some ways they're selling advertising. It can create a sense of fatalism and a sense of hopelessness. And I know there's some people who say, you're naive, don't you know how terrible this is? As I said, I stipulate to that. This is terrible. This is a terrible reactionary period in our history. But we have no right to be fatalistic. We have absolutely no right to tell our children that there is no hope. That would be such an abomination of our responsibility, or a compromise of our responsibility as citizens in a country where, just to take one example of a billion, of John Lewis's willingness to subject his skull to the billy clubs on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, not for his sake, but for the sake of democracy. I can assure you that there is no one in this room, I don't even know you, that has more of a reason to think this country is corrupt than, or that its government is corrupt than John Lewis did. But that didn't keep him from giving up hope. In fact, he saw it as part of what he had to do to make sure that his generation and the next generation were able to sustain that. And frankly, it's the only way we've ever made any progress in this country. And that is something we have to do. And I agree totally with Jason that in Colorado, our civic infrastructure has atrophied seriously. I think a big part of that is these phones and these social media platforms that those guys that were sitting behind President Trump at his inauguration have inflicted on school children all over our country and inflicted on the rest of us. I think that the collapse of edited content journalism in America is something that we are wrestling with in a very profound way. Do you think, just one example, do you really think we'd be having a conversation about whether Canada was going to be our 51st state if Walter Cronkite were reading us the news at night, every night? I don't think we would. I don't think we would. And we're not going to bring that analog world back, but Trump has mastered that digital world. And we have to find a way to rebuild the architecture that Jason was talking about. There's no other way to do it. And I would add to his list, I guarantee you that there is a kid in this community who could really use somebody who came once a week to read to them. I guarantee you there is a senior in a elder care facility who could use somebody to come there and read something. My worst nightmare, by the way, as a former Democratic politician, is that someday I'm going to find myself in one of those facilities and somebody's going to say to someone else, yeah, I don't really know, but he used to be a politician, so put on the cable. You know, and I'm going to be sitting here watching that 24 hours a day because I can't think of anything less constructive in terms of the answer to your question. And post-COVID, we have lost our ability to interact in the way that Jason was talking about. And we have to rebuild that at the local level and in the state of Colorado. That's what I think. Thank you for your question.